Hello Year 11, so just a very quick update on what to expect from tomorrow's English Language Component 1 mock. So this is your paper 1, this is the one that we prepared for with the Lucy, Brian and Maureen Faulkner paper we did. So remember, the dad was hardly ever around and the mum didn't really have a very good relationship with Lucy. Your first hour will be your reading and your second section is your writing section where you write a story for 45 minutes. So it will look like this on your front cover. Then on the inside, it will be split up in the exact same way that we've prepared in our book. So please make sure that you revise or take your books home, revise the cue card that we made together in class if you were here. I will talk you through that in a minute, people who were not available on our revision lesson. And essentially what you'll do is you will make sure that you're reading the separate resource material and reading your questions carefully. So it will give you a little bit of information about the extract as well. So please make sure you read this because sometimes it just gives you a bit more contextual information before you start reading it. Question by question, these are in bold for a reason. It says read lines 1 to 6. So in the same way that we've practiced, you box those lines off. If you pick out information from anywhere other than these lines, you just won't get the marks for them. Question number 1 is an AO1 style question. It says list because you need to bullet point your answers. 5 marks are available. Try to give 6 if you can. Nice, simple, these are the most easiest of responses, which is why they started with our question number 1. And on our cue card, so you might want to just even screenshot that if you want. I'll put it on the side a minute, just in case you want to screenshot it to revise it. So this is the one we went over in class the other day. So question number 1, AO1 style question, list. It will be 5 marks. Try to do 6 bullet points instead. And a reminder, if you use just a quotation on a line for your bullet point, they won't give you a mark for it. But if you say a statement, for example, list 5 things we learn about Emma or Lucy or whatever it says in the question, you can say, we learn Lucy is da-da-da-da-da. So even if you use a quote or you don't, you'll get the mark for the simple comment about what you learn about them in the first question, basically. But don't do quotes on their own. That's the only AO1 style question. Question 2, 3 and 4 are all AO2 style questions. So these are, please make sure that you aim for like 6 to 7 quotes for our target range for our class. 6 to 7 quotes, zoom in on those writers' techniques and say what particular words mean, shows or suggests, and then move on to your next quote. This quote suggests that blah, 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 blah. This verb, zoom in, shows that da, 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 and move on again. Now, the difference between question 2, 3 and 4 is that question 2 is a 5 marker, whereas question 3 and 4, these are 10 markers. So you're going to change the amount of quotations or the amount that you're writing in each, okay? So I'll just show you on this version. So question number 2, read lines 7 to 16. What impressions, what viewpoints, what perspectives or perceptions does the writer create of do? If it's an impressions question, then you're just going to give your impression, your view of what these characters are or your view of what a particular question is specifying. So 5 marks. It does say to refer to the language used, to unique quotes, relevant subject terminology. So make sure that you're zooming in on writers' techniques and then telling us what those words and phrases mean. Suggests, shows, presents them as being, I get the impression that Emma is, when it says da 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 da. So shorter amount of time on these 5 markers. Make sure that you're spending enough time in this hour on your 10 markers. You've got 30 potential marks there. So question number 3, read lines 17 to 30. How does the writer show the character of Emma in these lines? Again, you box your lines off. It actually says what Emma does in these lines. So you need particular quotations, things that she does. Writer's use of language, they're your writer's techniques. What do they show? What's the writer trying to say through using particular techniques, this word, this adjective, and so on. Question 4, exactly the same. Box your lines off. How does the writer make these lines exciting and dramatic? So make sure you're using those keywords from the question. At the beginning of the section, the writer makes the lines exciting and dramatic and bring in your quotes. So what happens to build excitement, for example, the writer's use of language and structure. So please make sure you're using writer's techniques. In terms of structure, is there a change in something that's happening now in comparison to the beginning? Has this, if it's talking about being exciting and dramatic, what's changed now that you're up to line 55 from line 1? Is there a change in pace? Is there a change in tension? Is there a change of character? Are some paragraphs bigger than others? Are there short, sharp sentences, overuses of certain types of punctuation? And what is this for? What's the effect it has on the reader? Usually there will be some sort of change in tone or pace to give you something to write about. They try to pick extracts, so you're able to comment on that sort of thing as well. Or even a change of perspective. Yeah. And last, we've got question number 5. This is an AO4 style question. These are known as the evaluate questions. Again, 10 marks. And it asks you to look at the end of the text and also the text as a whole. I'll just show you now. To answer this question, you need to read 56 to 70. Consider the passage as a whole. It will then give you a statement. Obviously, you're not going to get this one in the exam, but it will give you a statement and it will ask how far you agree. So the writer uses the walk to Wreck Island to show a change in Emma and Robbie. So you'd be zooming in on certain things like we can see a change in Emma or change in Robbie, but use this language. They're your keywords from the question. How far do you agree with this view? Well, you need to say if you agree or not, and then you're going to find evidence in this part of the text and the full text, other bits that you've probably highlighted, to show whether you agree or not that this walk to the island has changed these characters, for example, in this text. So your thoughts and feelings are something you want to write about, how they're presented in this bit and a passage as a whole, how the writers created these thoughts and feelings, and in terms of how you're looking at particular things that the writers decided to use. Now, your evaluate question, this is just a little overview of the structure. So beginning, middle, of end of the entire text. So do you notice that there's any sort of change? So does it change in terms of the characters, the tension? Is there a build up? Does it change from like a perspective or a particular point of view? Or usually there's a difference between the beginning to the middle to the end. And it might be a good idea to consider that as you highlight this part, these quotations for this part of the question. It's recommended that you use your keywords from the question, and it says how far do you agree. So you want to use phrases like I agree that, or I mostly agree that the characters change on their walk to Wreck Island, for example. Bring in your quotes. Writer's technique shows by the middle, I agree that they also change blah, 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 because you're using keywords from the question. I agree they change on the walk to Wreck Island because Emma is shown to be this in this quote, which suggests, presents her as being. However, Robbie is shown as By the end, I somewhat agree or I disagree, or just depends on the text, doesn't it? Bring in your quotes and what it shows you about whether there's a change in those characters. Now, as I said before, there will usually be a change in tension or a change in how a character is presented or a change in tone. So just bear that in mind in terms of how you're responding to the question, especially if it's saying things like the use of structure or change. It's suggesting there's going to be some sort of change. It's giving you that as a focus. So that's just a quick overview of what to expect tomorrow for the reading section, and I'll do the writing section next.